Welcome back to part 3 of Mod My Scion FRS, presented by Valvoline, where today we're going to finish this thing off and take it for a rip with the owner. If you watched parts 1 and part 2, then you know this is a safari style build. We're calling it a pothole slammer to handle the mean streets of Hamilton here. And as you would have seen at the end of part 2, we did fit up the ADF Anderson Design and Fabrication 1.5-inch lift kit along with these big Continental all-terrain tires and these Sparco wheels, and it is a tight fit in the wheel well. It's filling it all up and then some. We do rub very lightly on the front wheel well liner here, but what we need to do now, and we're using our BG Racing stance to do that, is check how much steering angle we have before we start making contact with the wheel well liner or the inside of the wheel well or anything else that we don't want to be rubbing on, because this does need to drive on the streets and slam potholes and maybe chuck some gravel, and for that to happen it needs some suspension travel and it needs some steering angle. As you can see, we've turned the wheel as far as we could to the right before we started to feel some resistance, and where it's hitting is actually on the back side here. It's not hitting hard though, it's hitting the wheel well liner and the mud flap, but it doesn't feel like it's hitting anything like metal underneath there. So I think we could keep turning it further if we forced it, or if we remove the wheel well liner, we might clear back there. So now we've turned it left until we felt resistance again, and you can see we have a country mile of room in the back, but up front it is hitting, although it's hitting further into the wheel well than I thought. I thought it was gonna hit out here. It looks like maybe it dragged a little here, but so lightly, it doesn't really matter, but it is definitely hitting back in here on like the back side of the tire.
So before I peel this fender liner out, you'll notice this area here is my main point of concern. This is where the tire was rubbing, and when we pull this out here, yank this out of here, oh boy, here's the issue. I was hoping that this was gonna be way back, like this is the frame rail, and you can see it is super close, so this is gonna be a problem. On the other side, we've got plenty of clearance. So nevertheless, let's put the wheel and tire back on here, and then we can kind of like look where we're at. Liner's out, wheels back on, and let's start turning these. We've got our slip plates here, so I can do this by hand. And man, it clears right now, which is great. We probably have about 1/2 inch of clearance here, which, I mean, it's okay. It's not terrible. Up front, we have a ton of room here. The downside though is now you've exposed everything, and you know, like the fog lights are okay, the lights are fine, but up in this area here, we've got a ton of open property that goes into the engine bay, and there's electronics, there's a fuse box, so we certainly want to cover that. So I think what we're gonna do is put the original liners back in and then start cutting them.
Actually, hold on, PT, before we put the liner back in, shouldn't we do something about that frame rail sticking out?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good idea.
Can you use your Jedi powers on it, maybe?
I should try my Jedi mind trick to maybe like squash this in and see what happens. So my Jedi mind trick didn't work this time, but the old hammer surprisingly does a great job. I think now we're gonna have enough clearance here. Like this is, I probably moved it 3/4 of an inch. I think that should be plenty now. Since we do have some exposed metal here, guess what I'm going to? The fluid film. I'm gonna protect it like this, bomb it all up. We are not gonna have any rust issues here. Look at that, DP. And you know what? The bonus of this is it's gonna act as a lubricant if we were to have any rubbing, which we won't. You know, the tire's just gonna go oh so smoothly over it. And now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna put the liner back in here, and I'm gonna tuck it behind the fender here as such, like this.
Pro tip, I like it.
Which is gonna give us a little bit more clearance, I think, here.
Some precision surgery going on here, everyone. PT is not holding back.
Ooh, there you go. It's gonna leave it's gonna be, you know, a gaping hole here, but you know what? This is gonna be way better than having this whole thing removed. We're all buttoned up here, and we seem to have okay clearance here. You can see it's still going to rub. Like our plan is just to let this clearance itself on the fender liner, but now that we have that extra room, we're not worried about like shredding a tire. And up here, We've got plenty of room with that cut I made. So I think we're gonna be A-okay.
I may have said earlier that we were going to give this thing a cut and polish, but man, we were busy enough as it is, and this being a safari car, it's just going to get dirty and abused in the winter and whatnot. So we figured, why not give it the quick spray and seal from Sonax instead. This is, as the name says, a touchless spray-on sealant, and you spray it on while the car's still wet. So you've washed it, you've rinsed it, you spray this on while it's wet, and you immediately rinse it off. And incredibly, it did a remarkably good job. Like, as soon as you start to wash this stuff off, the water's beating and running off really well. So I'm sure it doesn't last terribly long. It's probably something you would use every time you wash the car, where with, you know, a wax or better still a ceramic coating, they last much longer. But as a quick and easy way to like seal your car up, I think this is pretty remarkable. So first time we've tried this, isn't it, Pete?
Yep.
So 2 thumbs up on that. Last thing we're gonna do before we go do some safariing with Dove is throw in these WeatherTech mats, because if you're out in the muck, you're gonna probably have mucky feet. So we figured we'd take care of this FRS better than Dove has so far. His stock mats are looking pretty dirty. All right, here comes this dirty boy. In goes this fancy WeatherTech liner. And of course we got these from WeatherTech Canada, who will ship to your door in like 2 to 3 days. They have remarkably fast shipping. And as you can see, these just drop right in there. They're designed to use the factory security points here on the floor. One of our favorite additions is also WeatherTech's cargo liner, because let's face it, the dirtiest stuff always goes in the trunk, and I always find I trash the carpets in my trunk. So this is a great way to protect the carpets and whatnot. And it's just like the floor liners, these are like based on a laser scanning of the space, so they fit perfectly. They just drop right in there. We did let this sit out in the sun for 20 minutes just so it would sort of flatten out, because it's shipped to you in a kind of a roll. But once it flattens out, man, look at that, custom fit. All right, that is a wrap on this. It's time to head to the track and do a little safariing, maybe a little ripping around with our buddy Dove. Well, we made it back to Toronto Motorsports Park. Man, it feels good to be out here, and it's actually a nice sunny day for this time of year. And I gotta say, the Safari FRS, if we can call it that, drives remarkably well, and it still drives exactly like an FRS. It's almost like all we've really done is lifted it and given it a slight bit more sound with that exhaust and intake. But the ride quality feels exactly like an FRS because it's still on stock shocks and springs. It does feel higher, obviously, and it does rub a little bit in like full lock or close to full lock steering. But other than that, it actually drives remarkably well. I never really ripped on it hard, but we drove over some like rough, bumpy roads, and it rode really well. I don't know how much power we're losing with like the extra, diameter and weight of this wheel and tire package, but who cares? When it looks this cool, I'm all about it now. I've never really been a Safari guy, but I think I'm well on my way there now. This was a lot of fun. So Dove should be here any minute. So let's get his reaction and then go for a rip with him. All right, everyone, here comes Dove. In my Tundra, that's right, we swapped cars, and he may have thought we were building him a little bit of a track car, so don't be surprised if he's a little upset. Let's find out. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Nice truck, by the way.
This is a sweet ride.
Yeah? So is this. It may not be exactly what you were expecting, but
we're at the track.
We are at the track.
We're going to do a track test.
Well, this is going to be a track test, although we may be more off track than on track, because
wow.
you sort of half jokingly said, wouldn't a Safari build be cool as like a winter beater? And we thought that's the best, worst idea ever. So welcome to your best, worst FRS Safari nightmare dream. It's all happening here, buddy.
That is impressive.
It looks pretty cool, doesn't it? I'm really pumped on the way it's turned out.
Pulling up, it looks like a Hot Wheels car.
It does.
It's wild.
It does.
It's
It really
totally wild.
makes an impact. Driving it up here, there were a lot of people rubbernecking looking at it, which you wouldn't normally get in a stock FRS.
No.
But she's not stock anymore. It's right on really well on this road, actually.
This is something I'd never do in an FRS.
No, you wouldn't think about doing this in a normal FRS, would you?
No, never.
It's a really cool feeling being up higher in a sports car chassis.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not something I could ever explain to anybody.
No.
It's totally like a wild feeling.
Oh man, we're like right out in the mud now.
Yeah, it's soupy out here.
Oh man.
We're good.
That looked like a pretty good hole, but
No,
it took it pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I mean, considering these are just stock shocks and springs,
Yeah, like
it
it's
actually handles this quite well.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, you could rallycross this setup, I think.
There's a fire pit hole. Yeah, we just drove through that.
Oh,
No
yeah.
big deal.
Oh, we got another bit of a hole here.
Oh.
Wow. I'm really quite impressed.
Yeah.
There's a little rubbage there.
And we won't forget about that never happened.
That's all right. Rubbing will happen.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about rubbing is it's just organic clearancing.
Yeah.
Let the tires rub themselves into where everything's happy. That's how you do it on these kinds of cars. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go.
It's surprisingly stable.
Isn't it? It's
for
pretty
something
remarkable.
that high.
These tires, by the way, are 3 inches taller than the stock tires.
That's it?
That's it. So your speedo is off by 12% now.
Okay.
So when you're doing 90K, you're going 100.
Perfect.
And between the 3-inch lift from the tires and the 1.5-inch chassis lift, I guess you're sitting 4.5 inches higher than you were before, which is significant.
It is noticeable. Man, it's just like, it's honestly good.
It feels really good, I gotta say.
It's good.
I'm pretty pumped on this. Man, well, it's a good thing we washed your car for you, Dov.
Yeah, you did a great job.
You've dirtied it up nicely, and the tires certainly got a workout. How are they working for you?
Actually, I was really impressed with it. Like, overall, it's really impressive. Like, this is like super rutted and muddy, and like the muck is gnarly here.
And it
Good.
sounds great too, by the way. When you rip by us, like that exhaust has a really nice sound to it. It sounds like a rally car.
video.
You're gonna have to watch the video for that experience. But man, it looks great. It looks really well balanced. I'm kind of amazed how good it is on the stock suspension too. Like it looks like it's really soaking up the bumps quite well.
Oh yeah, it's like, I'm kind of blown away about it. Like, you could definitely rallycross this.
Yeah,
You know?
just as is.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, not everyone's gonna take their FRS off-roading. So maybe what we should do is like clean her up a little bit and go turn a few laps on the track. Not flat out, but just see how you like it on asphalt.
Sounds good to me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So fast.
He's banging gears like he's on the drag strip. I love it. It's probably a little slower than it was on a smaller, lighter wheel and tire package, but
I mean, it doesn't
still an
feel
FRS, right? It still feels really fun. It's actually not really rubbing there. That is impressive.
You know what? It's not really bad.
It's kind of amazing. Like it just drives like an FRS, which is one of the best sports cars you can buy, frankly, for this kind of money. Like, how much more fun can you have for like what, $5-6 grand? It's kind of nuts.
And
so
you know what? We could just bang these curbs here. Like, I don't even care. It just,
it
drive right
soaks
over.
that up. And it, you know, you think with a higher center of gravity, it would feel like it's falling over more, but it really doesn't feel that way, does it? It's kind of impressive.
The grip is really impressive from these tires.
Yeah,
considering they're for an SUV.
an all-terrain, SUV tire, truck tire. They are really impressive, and they come with a 60,000 mile guarantee. And of course, last but not least, Valvoline, who sponsored this whole series, we did the full fluid flush with some very highly sophisticated fluid techniques that you'll see in the first episode on this. So
I can't wait.
Yeah, you'll be impressed by my skills on that episode, I'm pretty sure. And we may even have a little surprise from Valvoline at the end here for you. So let's take me back to the paddock before I pick on these weather WeatherTech floor mats, which you've already given a bit of a workout.
Oh yeah, I got the one on this side super muddy. I stepped out in the donut zone and it was a bad idea.
Well, that is a wrap, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Valvoline, for making this whole build possible, and thank you, Dove, for being dumb enough to let us do this to your FRS. I think it turned out super cool. As a matter of fact, we got this whole prize package of Valvoline product waiting to go in his trunk once he's had a little bit more fun here at TMP today. And if you want to build your own Safari FRS, make sure to check the description below. We'll have links to all the products there. And of course, make sure to like and subscribe and do all that YouTube-y stuff so we can build more of these crazy quick builds. All right, Dovey, hit it. Safari FRS build. I almost died, but that's okay. It's worth it for a buddy like Dove. And we want to say a very special thank you to Valvoline